In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a Windows 2000 server as Active Directory server and the Radius server for testing 802.1x Radius authentication for Wi-Fi. Start with the server manager. The first step is to add the role of Active Directory server. Go to dashboard, add a role and feature. Next, role-based installation. Select. You shouldn't select any of the other services first. You need to select Active Directory domain services and just add feature, then next, 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 and install. Yep. Once that is finished, just click close. And then before installing anything else, you need to configure the Active Directory server. So first step, go to this exclamation mark, promote the server to be the domain controller. Yep. Add a new first. This is a test server, so I will create a test domain, server.local. Next. Yeah, use the default options. Create a password. Yeah, click next. 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 Yep, install. The next step, before installing the Windows NPS, which is going to be the Radius server, you should install the certificate authority. So for that, you can go to add roles and features, click next, role-based features, and then certificate, certificate services, because the Radius server needs a certificate. Go through the installation. Don't need to click any of this and install. Installation succeeded. Close this one. Go to the exclamation mark. Yep, configure Active Directory certificate services on the destination server. Click on that. Click next. Select the role, certificate authority. You should select Enterprise CA so that the certificates will be created for each user and also for the Radius server, not a standalone CA. This server is going to be the root CA. It will generate a private and public key pair and sign its public key with the private key. This is for test purposes. That's what I'm going to use. Local CA, the root CA is going to be this server. Create a new private key. Yeah, 2048-bit is good. SHA-1, just select what's default. Click next. Valid, yeah, for 5 years. Yep, Once it is all done, click configure. The CA seems to be running fine. The next step is to install the NPS, which is the Radius server. Role-based features, next. Select network policy and access services. Install. Next. Don't need to tick any of these. Install. Installation succeeded. Close this. Next step is to add a user to the Active Directory and then test authenticating using that username password via the Wi-Fi network. To add a user, you need to go to Tools, Active Directory, Users and Computers. Here you can see the training server.local domain is there. Go in, find the users folder. You could right click on the users, then you create a new user. I would call my user1, last name is test, login name is user1. I would create a password and for testing. And because this is a testing server, I want these users to use the same password. It makes it easier to test every time, and password never expires. This is only for testing purposes. Yep, you have finished adding the user, and the user should appear here. Yep. And domain, it's a member of domain users group. I will add all the domain users to be able to access the Radius authentication. The next step is to go to the Radius server, the NPS server, network policy server. Yeah. Here I want to create a wireless Radius server for 802.1x wireless or wired connection. So configure 802.1x. I am trying to create a profile for secure wireless connection. I will name it Wi-Fi. Click next. Radius clients. Radius clients are the access points, and my access points are going to be in this subnet 253.128/25. Yeah. And friendly name is APs. And the shared secret, I will create a shared secret that I'm going to enter in this AP. So any AP communicating from this subnet asking for Radius authentication will be accepted by this Radius server. Click OK. Next, we are going to use PEEP. PEEP is the most common 802.1, yeah, the WPA2 enterprise wireless authentication method. Inside PEEP, you can see that we are going to select the certificate, not the CA certificate, but the certificate for this server as the Radius certificate, and MSCHAP2. Yes. And the next groups. Which users in the Active Directory are going to be able to authenticate with this Radius server? Domain users. Check name, domain users. Yeah. All the domain users will be able to access Wi-Fi through this. Traffic control configure. I'm not going to configure any of these values. The private tunnel ID, which is usually used to set the VLAN for the Wi-Fi users. click finish. So this is a very simple Radius server configuration, and we are ready to test our Radius server now. Here I have my Hive Manager NG account. It's Aerohive Hive Manager, and I have one of my access points connected to this. So in this part I'm going to show you how to create an SSID and point it to communicate with the Radius server. You can create a new network policy. You don't need to have configuration for switches. This one I'm going to call training 1, and I will create an SSID 802.1x radius training. It will work on both 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz. From this authentication security options, I'm going to use select 802.1x enterprise, and once you select this, there is an option to create a Radius server. Radius server, I'm going to name it as Win 2012 Radius 1. It's an external Radius server, Win 2012 1 external. Need to add an IP address, which is 172.18.253.135. And the shared secret, you have to configure the same shared secret you configured in the Radius server. Save. Now you have your Radius server. Save. It's all good. Your SSID is here, Radius server is here, and click next. Next. D and S. And now upload this configuration to this access point. Yeah, upload is finished. Now it's time to test. Now we are ready to test the Wi-Fi client connecting to the Wi-Fi access point using Radius authentication. To show that it is working, I would open Wireshark. Yep. You can go to capture interfaces, select the local interface of the Radius server, maximize, and then let's filter by Radius. And now I'm going to connect my client to the SSID. Yeah, this is the SSID. My client is attempting to connect. Then you can see that it connected and successfully authenticated. We could stop Wireshark and see what happened. This is the IP address of the AP sending access request, and after the challenge handshake, finally the Radius server accept the client, and then the client connected. So that's the end of my video on how to configure Windows 2012 server and an Aerohive AP using Hive Manager NG for Radius authentication. Thank you for watching.